President Biden's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, joins us now to discuss. Good morning to you, Dr. Fauci. It's good to see you. We just heard in David's piece how students say that they will now get the vaccine because it has now been FDA approved. How much of a game changer do you think that this will be?
Well, I think it's going to be very important from three standpoints, Gail. When you have a vaccine that's fully approved by the FDA, there are a certain percentage of unvaccinated but eligible to be vaccinated people who have, in a survey, said about 30% of them who were reluctant to get vaccinated now will go ahead and get vaccinated. So that's a pretty good chunk.
Dr. Fauci, how far away do you think we are from full approval for Moderna and Johnson & Johnson?
I don't think it's too far away because both of those products were a bit behind in the initiation of their EUAs and then in the submission, obviously, of a lot of material that is required for a BLA. So I think it's a temporal issue. I don't think there's anything different necessarily about the process. It's just that they submitted or are submitting their material a bit later or after Pfizer did.
Are we talking about weeks, do you think? Months still?
You know, it's difficult to predict because issues may come up with the FDA. I would imagine, knowing the differences in times of the submission of their EUA, that it likely would be a matter of a month or so, but not a lot more than that.
Dr. Fauci, how close with this approval and the two other approvals that are likely to be forthcoming soon, how close are we to getting back to some sense of normalcy where there are fewer guidelines and we don't think about the coronavirus on a daily basis?
You know, that's going to be up to us. And when I say up to us, I mean it's really how many people get vaccinated, how many people step up and say, you know, we've had enough of this. We've got to put an end to this terrible outbreak that's completely disrupted our lives.
What is that threshold?
So we have the vaccines available. You know, the threshold is something that we don't know. And the reason I say we don't know it is because you have to get to a situation like with measles, where you were like way 90+% of people were vaccinated and really got that kind of what we call herd immunity. You know what that number is because when it gets below that number, you start to see outbreaks like we saw some time ago in the New York City area with Hasidic Jewish people who were not getting vaccinated. But right now, if you've never been there, you don't know whether that's 80, 85, 90%. You just don't know. And when you don't know, the thing to do is to just do whatever you can to get as many people vaccinated as you can. And when you reach that point, you'll know it because you won't have any infections. But you really can't accurately predict what that number is.
Let's go back, Dr. Fauci, to the stepping up part, because if more people got the vaccine, we would be out of this much sooner. You know, the science has shown that. And I heard you say that if people get it, we could maybe get back to normal in spring of 2022. So what do you say to people that think this FDA process was rushed? You know, that how do we know that this is safe? Can you just hit on that a second? And how did you come up with spring of 2022?
Yeah. Well, let me answer your first question. First of all, Gail, it wasn't rushed. They meticulously went over every bit of data. Spring of 2022 is just an estimate, Gail. It means that if we can get a large majority, overwhelming majority of the people vaccinated, and we get through the winter okay, because remember, we're going to have the complication of influenza and other respiratory illnesses. If we can get through the winter okay, and we can get those people vaccinated, that 80 million or so who are not vaccinated, I estimate, and it's purely an estimate, that by the time we get to the spring and people come outdoors again as opposed to being inside, I believe that we can get to some degree of normality that approximates what we would like to be. But it's up to us, Gail.
All right, Dr. Fauci, we thank you for the message. Step up, people. We hear you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.